Hi people, how you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It is Sandra here, and of course I am back again with another video from Charlie Kirk. Okay, so this says Charlie Kirk triggers climate change radical. I wonder what that could possibly be about, but I'm going to be getting into this today. Definitely going to be my first time, so I would want you guys to see this video through me, so please just stick around from the very start to the very end. Okay, so with this being said, let's hop right into the video.
I think climate change is a much more serious issue than the conservative movement gives it credit for. And so my question is, what common ground can we find regarding climate action, and how can we get more conservatives in on the movement? What can we find that we agree on?
Cool. I just want to make sure I understand where you're coming from, and this is not a trick question. Can you define what you mean by climate change?
Primarily reducing carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases.
Got it. So is your argument that rising global temperatures are tied to carbon emissions?
To my understanding, the scientific consensus is quite solid on that, yes.
Got it. Okay. So, again, not a trick question. What is carbon? It's not a trick question.
Okay. It's an element.
Yeah, right.
And carbon dioxide traps heat in the atmosphere.
Right.
So
Carbon is life, right? So carbon, yeah, exactly. You can't have life without
I've heard this before, though, and the idea that carbon is plant food is great, but the reality is when there's 40 billion tons being emitted a year by a network of global factories and global tailpipes, that absolutely has an impact on climate. And
Right.
I'm disappointed that this is the reaction
Well, hold
to
on.
the question, honestly, because I don't know how you all, we're in an agricultural area, we're seeing it worse every year. It's getting
hold on,
bad,
let me ask
and
a question.
I don't know why conservative movement insists on resisting the scientific
Well, I'm not
consensus
resisting. I'm
on it.
asking what carbon is. Okay, so let's make sure we're clear on what I'm saying. Do you think there could be other explanations as to why global temperatures are rising?
Yes.
Such as?
They've studied them, and it's not due to anything other than the emissions, to my
Okay, so
understanding.
not solar flares, global tilt.
Well, they've accounted for those, and they've found out that those are not the main drivers of the climate change that we're seeing.
Okay, so you trust, I just want to make sure I understand, you trust consensus from scientists that put forward reports?
No, I trust ExxonMobil's own scientists who found this out in the 1980s and hid the findings for decades so that they wouldn't lose money.
Right. So, excuse me, just as a kind of side note, I'm unbelievably skeptical when I hear scientists say, but let's pretend you're right. Okay, let's pretend that climate change is an existential threat. Would that be something that you say?
To our existence, to the human species, probably not. I imagine the rich will always find an ark to live in while the rest of us have our crops fail.
You have some nuance, so that's fair. So let's talk then about, let's pretend you're right. Let's say that there's some solutions. What would be a solution? Should we get rid of fossil fuels?
You know, if we could just filter out it's the carbon that's doing it. So I don't know about getting off of fossil fuels, but if we could
see,
find
that's why I
a
asked
way to
about your
filter out the
premise.
carbon.
The amount of certainty you have in a planet that is so massive with such unbelievable biodiversity to immediately act that we, the humans, are the only reason that global temperatures might be going up, I think is a flawed hypothesis. Because if you're wrong, then we might try to find a solution that actually might be more about private property confiscation and wealth deterioration, aka Marxism, not actually solving the problem. That's why I challenge the hypothesis. What else might be contributing to it? So let's just ask some very basic questions. So if carbon is the problem, would you support planting 1 trillion trees?
Yes.
Okay, good. We agree. So that wouldn't.
Sequestering carbon is part of the solution. I think there's a broader set of solutions than what the Democratic Party specifically has been bringing to the table. But again, this resistance by the conservatives to just not acknowledge that this carbon is an issue.
Why do you think we ask questions? Because we're dumb, or why do you think?
Skepticism with good reason.
Okay, good. No,
yeah.
okay,
but
good.
At some point, in looking for the answer, you need to acknowledge that the answer can be found, and the answer has been found. People have spent their lives and careers studying this for decades. It's been over 100 years ago since people were first talking about the idea that carbon was trapping heat. So this is not a new idea.
Do you have any fear that the solution might be worse than the problem?
What solution? Sure, some, yeah.
Like, for
But I'd like
example,
to broaden-
mandatory electric vehicles?
Oh, no, electrical vehicles will mine the ocean to death before we get everyone an electric car. It's not a solution.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's also, cobalt's really, really bad for the environment.
Yeah, we need to go car-free and build walkable communities again, actually.
No, that's a very bad idea. See, now we're getting somewhere, okay? Bad idea. Cars are freedom. right? Without a vehicle, you are a captive of the government in an open-air prison, right? And so, just look at San Francisco.
It just means you can walk to the grocery store without needing a vehicle.
Right. That's a 15-minute city model. But no, this is important, and we're not going to.
I've been studying architecture for 4 years. I've been studying a little bit of urbanism too.
Right.
It's not taking away your freedoms, the fact that you get to go to a grocery store and a library and a coffee store within a 15-minute walk, folks.
Okay.
That's actually independence from the automobile. But that's
But let me. Independence is being able to go where you want to go when you want to go there. That's what independence is.
Yeah.
But let me. We're not going to find.
Then?
Here's the one thing that I want to make sure. I don't get this from you because you're coming at it from a good place. The panic over climate becomes such a priority by people that also have the solution in mind. I'm not saying it's you, right?
It's fair.
And
That's
so
fair.
we have a built-in healthy skepticism over the last decade that we are being constantly lied to by the same amount of cabal of criminals, and at the very least, exaggerating the threat, okay? Exaggerating the threat, where we are told we must take our freedoms and liberties away. We must reconfigure our life. And I'll be very honest with you, that with all of the pressing challenges that face humanity, like the most suicidal generation in history, the most drug-addicted generation in history, the most alcohol-addicted generation in history, the fixation on an abstraction of rising global temperatures is an academic distraction from real material suffering that people have when the activists, not necessarily you, but the loudest activists, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, they want to get rid of fossil fuels, they want to disenfranchise millions of people of work, and they want to basically put the entire grid in an unrealistic solar, wind, and turbine type model.
Mr. Kirk, you sound so much like the liberal coastal elites that you rail against, because the reality is the first year that my family bought cows, 2012, we had a record-breaking drought, and hay had to be trucked in from Oklahoma or Texas. The following spring, it rained so hard and so much it broke records, and the bridges washed out, and my mother couldn't get to work. So this is very much a real issue.
Let me ask you,
We're
in the last 50 years, have there been irregular weather patterns in the 60s, 70s, or 80s? Yes. I would just close with this. You could talk to any rancher or farmer here in Missouri. Unpredictability is part of the agrarian lifestyle. To act as if you could perfectly model it, and but here's the one thing about climate change that drives me crazy, and I'll just close with this, is that no matter what happens, it gets warmer, it's climate change, it gets colder, it's climate change, with tornado, it's climate change, it's sunny, it's climate change. It's the one thing that confirms the hypothesis regardless of the result. And so it's the perfect thing to argue for. You might be right. I don't think you are, that rising global temperatures are necessarily tied to human activity. But every solution I hear, every solution would obliterate the American economy and destroy our ability to use our greatest asset, with is fossil fuels, natural gas, liquid natural gas, and oil. Thank you so much. I got to get to the next question. Thank you.
I felt like we were going somewhere, okay? I felt like, okay, there was like there was a pattern, right? I felt like, yeah, I was listening. I was trying to get to the end. And then he said we would get more freedom if we if we don't have cars, and we would basically walk to the grocery store or walk to school or walk from another state to another state. And I'm like, bro, I thought like he just threw me off. I was listening to him, right? We had the part on like we were going, and then he just had to say something so not intelligent. Like, what do you mean? I do believe that he actually walked from wherever he was to this place. I do hope that he walked, okay? Because if you're trying to like fight against something, you shouldn't use that thing. You should be against it. So I'm believing that he moves about without car. I believe he doesn't own a car. I do believe that as well. Like, anyway, Charlie Kirk has said it all. Really, he has just said it all. And I really like, honestly, those people who come on like this panel with Charlie Kirk, like, I don't know where they come from. I don't know. Okay, so what is his resolve? Like, what is his solution? Like, what, like, if a solution literally is finding a better and easier means to doing something, okay? So he didn't have a solution. He was actually taking us back to where we were, because cars are like a solution to the problem, and he said we should go back to the like, bro, that actually made my head spin. But anyways, I'm glad that Charlie Kirk was there, and I really did love how he wanted the guy to derive his answers. Okay, Charlie didn't want to give it to him. I love Charlie's approach on this, right? Like he didn't want to tell him, oh no, this is this, or he just kept on asking him questions, and I love the way he asked him, why do you think we ask questions? Okay, so in this case, Charlie was asking him questions for him to find his answer himself, because he seemed a bit lost, and he said he's been studying he's been studying architecture. Okay, he has been studying that he studied. He is still in the process of studying it. So maybe when he is done, he would have like a better resolve to this, because he threw me away, with he saying we should work to the grocery store. But anyways, we did get into this. Very interesting, to be honest, because yeah, it was Charlie Kirk. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I want to know what you all think about this down in the comment box. Please do not hesitate to share your thoughts, your opinion, and things of that sort with me. And upon to the very next one, hopefully we do get to convey here. Do not hesitate to like this video if you did like it. Hit the subscribe button for more amazingly content as such. And I would really appreciate if you could share this video to a lot more people who need to get in all this conversation. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining me. Take care, and let's see you in the next one. So bye.